No. It's Iowa.
From high school to international wrestling, on the mat and beyond, this is the Potentially Dangerous podcast with the guys from IA Wrestle.
If you're a fighter, you like a fight. If you're an American, you like a fight. If you're an Iowa Hawkeye, you know you're going to get a fight.
Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes and all your podcast-friendly apps. And follow us on social media platforms at IA Wrestle. Time to strap it up and get to the show. All right, we are back. This is Potentially Dangerous, episode 57, brought to you by My House, myhousesportsgear.com. I'm Tony Hager. I'm going to be joined by Ross Bartachek a little later in the show. I had the opportunity to catch up with Rachel Waters, national champ, and Ross caught up with national champ Gannon Gremmel, future Iowa State Cyclone. So without further ado, we will go to our two national champs, and later I'll be joined by Ross Bartachek. How are we doing, Rachel?
Good. How about you?
I'm great. I'm not at cloud nine like you, I would assume. I mean, coming home with another Fargo title. I mean, how has the last week been for you?
It's great. It's awesome to finish out my high school career with a bang, and Fargo's my favorite tournament, so it's awesome to end on that note.
I mean, compare it to your experience at the Olympic team trials at Carver. Both, big events. Obviously, Olympic trials is tougher than Fargo, but can you put both events into words, I guess, as far as your experience goes?
Well, with Fargo, it's a little less nerve-wracking because there's a ton of mats. So even though there's a ton of people in the crowd too, you know that they're probably not watching your match. But at like Olympic trials, there's really like 2 or 3 mats, and you're like, oh crap, all these people are probably watching my match. So it's a little more nerve-wracking at the senior level events, but I feed off of it. I love it.
When I've heard you do interviews, and I've done interviews with you, and you do get nervous. How are you able to use those nerves, I guess, and ultimately you've been successful with it? I mean, what do you think is for you that you do to when the whistle blows, you're ready to go?
What I do is I just have to kind of rely on my training. What I do is I joke around with my coaches right until I go out there. So like my coach will be like, Steve Michelson, he'll be like, hey Rachel, give me a joke, and I'll tell him something, and that's how I go out on the mat. Not necessarily, because like if I think about that match, if I like try and like I'll overthink it, and then I don't wrestle how I know I can wrestle. So if I go out there not really thinking about that match, I go out there and I wrestle how I know I should.
So 2 Fargo titles for you. You looking back on your high school career, folk style career, and your freestyle career, I guess how do you feel like you left your mark in the state of Iowa?
I feel good. I hope Iowa's proud of me. I love Iowa, and I hopefully can come back and coach a little bit. But I really hope that I was a role model, or people want to, achieve that as well and want to represent the state of Iowa.
Do you feel like as an ambassador for women's wrestling in Iowa?
Yeah, a little bit. At a lot of these things, I'm the only person from Iowa. I mean, except for a couple boys here and there. But at all these girls' events, I'm normally the only person from Iowa. So I feel like I love Iowa and I love to represent it. So it's great that I get to. So
moving on to your next adventure, you're going to college. Oklahoma City is the plan. When are you moving in? When are you getting out of? You're at the OTC right now, correct?
Yeah, I'm at the OTC right now, and then I get to move in college the 16th of August, and then 2 weeks after that, head to France for Junior Worlds.
Holy cow! So you're juggling lots of things right now. Who are you working out with at the OTC right now?
Well, I just got in yesterday, but there's a lot of girls. All of the Olympians are here, and then a lot of the top level girls at my weight are here as well. So we'll see with practice tomorrow. We'll see who I decide to be partners with, but I'm excited there's a lot of talent here, so I'll definitely get good workouts in.
Are the Olympians, are they welcoming to you coming in and working with them? And how does that work?
No, they've always been really welcoming, and I've always been really young, so I don't know, at Spain I really got to know more of those girls, and so now they kind of know who I am now. At first they didn't really know, but now I'm a familiar face, so now I treated very well now that I've been here a couple times.
Yeah, some of these girls, they just train full time. They're training for the next quad. And I guess, what are your thoughts on going back to school and training in Oklahoma City?
Well, my thoughts are, first of all, I love my coach, Matt Stevens. I'm really excited to work with him. But my other thought on that was we thought about maybe just training and not necessarily going to college right away. But I thought, hey, if I hurt my knee again or if something happens, I really want a degree that I can fall back on. So if wrestling, something happens, I can have a college degree and I can still have a very successful life.
With, there were some coaching changes here recently with Oklahoma City. Was there ever a question that you would not be in Oklahoma City?
No, it wasn't a question. I got the call, and Matthew Stevens who is now the coach, and he was the one who recruited me, and he was a big reason on why I went there. So nothing really changed in my mind. I mean, I love Coach Randall, and he was a great guy, but everything's still right in my mind, and I'm excited to go and wrestle for Coach Stevens.
So, as an ambassador of the sport and somebody that wants to come back and coach, and somebody that works with people all over the nation, do you think Iowa is ready for women's sanctioned wrestling? I mean, is that something that you would have liked to have, or did you like wrestling with the boys?
I really did like wrestling with the boys to a point where like I needed to wrestle girls because that's who I'm going to wrestle in competition. So it got to a point where it wasn't the same feel. And I loved wrestling the boys, but I do think that Iowa is getting to that point where we could definitely do it. And I think that if we were to sanction it, the numbers would grow crazy because, there's a lot of girls out there that I think that they would love to wrestle, but they don't really like the idea of wrestling boys. I think it kind of takes a special person to wrestle with the boys. But I think if we were to sanction it, it would grow tremendously, and I think it'd be very successful.
With going to Fargo all these years, I mean, I was pretty far behind when it comes to women's wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we definitely are. It'd be great. There's a dual team. There's a junior duels for the state, and every year it's Texas, Washington, California, and I really want to see the day where Iowa breaks into that dual team and takes home some gold or something. I just want to see us break into that.
What do you think from your perspective of what can we do in our state as far as media, coaches, fans of wrestling? I guess, what do you think would help us reach some of those younger women in Iowa to get on the mat?
I don't know. I think that a big thing on how I get people, or how I tell people how much I love wrestling, is to kind of talk about how great it is, what it has done for me. Not only when I wasn't as successful, wrestling was one of the best things that has ever happened to me. So I just hope that helps out for sure. And I definitely think if we tell them that there are girls out there that do wrestle, if we can maybe get them to wrestle girls first, and then maybe if they want to keep wrestling, they can wrestle with their high school boys. But I think what we got to do is definitely have to make sure that they understand that their support and that they definitely can do it.
Rachel, I appreciate your time here. I know you're at the OTC and wrestling's your life right now, and we wish you the best of the luck on the world level and the college level. And all I got to say is you better stay in touch with us.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Give her a follow on Twitter at Rachel the Dachel. Are you planning on keeping the Twitter handle all through college? Or you want to switch it up? Or
I guess. I mean, I gotta keep it real, right?
All right, Rachel. Thank you. Thanks for the time on Potentially Dangerous.
All right, and now joining us on the Potentially Dangerous podcast is the one and only Gannon Gremmel. How you doing tonight, Gannon?
I'm doing good.
Awesome. Well, you're just fresh off capturing the junior freestyle national title out there in Fargo. Man, what was that feeling like?
Oh, it was great to do it for myself and do it with a couple of my future teammates. It felt really good.
So you win, and this is actually your second Fargo title. You won it as a cadet. So, how does it feel knowing, like, you just finished your high school career and you won your last match? So you'll always have that to fall back and look at.
Yeah, that was a big thing. I don't know if it was like my last match or some of my high school career, but I kind of got like nervous for like something I never really do, like get like nervous before a match. And for some reason, I got really nervous, and I mean, I kind of feel like that like helped me a little bit because I feel like I wrestled pretty good. I stayed solid position, but yeah, it actually fueled me a little bit. So it's pretty awesome to finish your career with a W.
I'm sure. And, kind of talking about finishing a career of sorts, you also won your first state title this year.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, what's led to the development for you to finally, you go out your senior season, you get that state title you wanted, and you add a junior title? I mean, what's led to your development this year?
Yeah, I mean, we really started working on like positions where I'm best in. I think that really helped me. And when I started figuring some of that stuff out, like, because I mean, I'm moving up a weight class, and it's a completely different game at heavyweight than 220. That's for sure. So it's a little less shots, but more shots at the right time, more better shots, like smarter shots, because you can't get under them kids and sit because they'll make you pay. That's for sure.
And looking at your results here from Fargo, I mean, you started out with a tech fall, then you pinned a kid in 17 seconds, got another tech fall. So your first three matches, you give up 2 points. I mean, coming into Fargo, how did you feel? And then you get a couple matches under your belt. I mean, what was your mindset at that time?
I felt really good. I took the camp kind of easy because I know that camp is, I mean, they work us like pretty hard and try to get us in shape and stuff. So I took the camp kind of easy because I knew it's going to be a long week at Fargo. So, I mean, that first match was good to get out of the way because everybody has them first match. You always hear about them first matches. So I got a really good warm-up in, and then I knew right after that warm-up, I think this first match was going to go good, and then just kept rolling. I tried to stay in solid position and tried to do that the whole time. So, I mean, I felt good the whole time.
And now, I mean, Fargo, it's such a massive tournament, and, once you started getting into the quarterfinals, I mean, that's where you're getting kids. They're the really good kids, they've whittled down the other guys. I mean, we're talking the elite guys here making this round. I mean, do you kind of research your opponent? Like, do you have an idea who you're facing when you're going into your quarterfinal, semifinal matchup?
Yeah. I mean, I have a coach, like, look him up a little bit, tell me, like, yeah, he's really solid. I mean, I kind of knew all my opponents this year. I kind of knew that Metz in the semis was a really good Greco guy. I was coming up on the trip and was kind of just hearing some USA Wrestling put him on the Instagram of making, I think he pinned his way through the Greco tournament, and he only wrestled for like 5 minutes through the whole tournament, 5 minutes, 50 seconds, I think it said. So I knew that guy, but I didn't really know who I had in the finals, and I didn't really know in the quarters. I just knew, like, if I just stay on their head and just get them out of position, like, I knew that worked for me every time. So just stuck with it, and, I mean, just tried to push the pace as much as I could because I knew I felt like I was the best in shape. So,
well, definitely looked that way.
Yeah.
So, you talked about you won your cadet title at 220 2 years ago. Last year you didn't make the stand. So, I mean, did you kind of feel like a pressure to get back on the stand, to get back on top?
I kind of went in every year of Fargo thinking, like, I'm the guy, like, I'm going to win it. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, I felt a little pressure, but, I mean, I've always thought I was the guy, and I always thought it's my turn to win it every time coming into Fargo. Even my first year as a freshman, I thought I'm good enough to win this tournament. So, I mean, yeah, it kind of gave me a little fire under my back a little bit, and I definitely felt a little pressure because I felt like I was the best guy in the weight. So I'm like, if I don't win it, I don't know. I just feel like I wouldn't reach my full potential.
And just kind of looking at the rest of Team Iowa, I mean, what did you kind of think about the performances? I know We had a Greco cadet champ, cadet freestyle champ. Rachel Waters repeated. What was your overall thoughts on Team Iowa and how they performed this year?
I thought we performed really good. Like I was really excited for what we got coming, and Rachel's always just putting it on other competitors. She's fun to watch as a girl, that's for sure. And then that Shriver, he's just real good. He's really fun to watch at that lower weight. But I think we wrestled pretty good as a team, but I wish we could have got a little bit more guys in the finals for juniors. Because, I mean, we all kind of bond. We're all good friends, so it's fun to watch Team Iowa do as well as they did.
Well, I think the problem with putting so many guys in the finals is because Iowa State has a bunch of recruits from other states just coming in and taking up all those spots. It's kind of hard to get into the finals, when you got Ian Parker, Austin Gomez, Kanan Storr, Sandy Colbert. I mean, when you guys are all just sitting there taking up the finals, like, what was that like, knowing you went in there with 5 of your future teammates? I mean, 5 future Cyclones. What was that feeling?
Man, that was sweet. Like, I definitely won't ever forget that. I mean, we were sitting down. We went up to Iowa State for a training camp, and we were all there, and we just sat down, like, after practice, and it was funny. We were like, yeah, I think we all can win this, and everybody agreed with each other. Like, we literally said, I think, like, every one of us has a chance to win this. And, like, and it kind of, like, we were right there. I mean, we lost a real close one. One of our guys was up at Kanan was up, I think, by 6, and he just got caught, so that sucks. But he was right there with one of the best kids in the country going to Penn State. So, I mean, I think we're good enough. We're good enough. We're going to be pretty good as a team. And, I mean, it was pretty big for Ian to knock off, I think, a world team member. So,
yep, Taylor Lamont. Yeah, Ian Parker, both those Michigan boys, Kanan Storr, we've been high on them on the Potentially Dangerous podcast for sure. And that was just crazy showing. I mean, how much have you guys gotten to be able to, get together this summer and kind of train and just get to know each other?
Well, we are all in summer bridge and taking classes up at Iowa State. So, like, we know each other really good. And Ian and Kanan are just putting in a lot of time. Like, they're drilling 2 times a day with Paulsons and just trying to absorb as much as they can before they're going into Fargo. I remember they were working really hard because, I mean, that's a busy schedule even, like, with classes throughout the day. So, I mean, it's really, like, time management. But, I mean, we were all training so hard for this because we all wanted to see each other do well and we all had our own, like, accomplishments we wanted to, reach. So, I mean, it was pretty sweet.
Yeah, it definitely paid off. I mean, you guys put in that work, and I don't think anybody can dispute that. I mean, you guys put in the work, and there's the proof's in the pudding, as they say.
Yeah.
So you guys, you're a top 5 recruiting class. I mean, I guess I don't know if we want to go into individual websites, but we'll call it a top 5 class. And, you guys already got 3 guys on board for this next year in the recruiting wise. And 2 of them are top 50 recruits. What is it about Iowa State right now? They just seem to be making the splash. I mean, what got you energized to want to be a Cyclone, and what's going on there right now?
I mean, it's just the coaches know it's our time. It's our time to do something special, and they're really focusing on that. I mean, just like the training partners for me was a big thing, and then the coaches, like, it just felt like everybody was like a family to me. Like, you heard, like, Ian Parker say that in his interview and stuff, but that's like the real feeling when I first went up there. I'm like, I definitely like this. I like it here. Like, all the team bond's perfect, and then, like, we always have recruits coming up and training with us, and they always stay at my place, and we're always just bonding. Me and Gomez are really good friends, and Leisure's always up there, and I mean, Coleman's, that's his backyard, so it's pretty sweet what we got going. So hopefully we can get a couple more tough guys in that recruiting class as well.
You bet. Well, so you win your national title. That's the last high school thing you had going for you. I mean, what's the rest of the summer look like for Gannon Gremmel?
A lot of fishing, that's for sure. I got to get that out of the way. So, I mean, I didn't get a lot of time to fish because there's a lot of wrestling, but I'm definitely. I was out today, got skunked for the first time, so that's a lot. I'll be fishing a lot, but yeah, there'll be some training. I'll probably take it easy, get ready for season, get in shape, running, and just try to get bigger for the weight.
Absolutely. And, looking forward to the season, I'm sure you're probably going to be looking at a red shirt, but, what are your thoughts now that, you're officially going into college now, and that's just kind of the mindset you got to have. So what are you kind of thinking and looking forward to for this, freshman season?
Oh, I'm looking forward to maybe red shirt. They're thinking red shirt, but if I'm the guy, I'm the guy. So that's the plan. So that's what my goal, be the guy, make some stuff happen. So I feel good if I got red shirt because we got a tough team coming up and a tough recruiting class even after us. So it's pretty exciting. I'm just gonna leave it up to the coaches and what they think's best for me. So that's probably what I'll end up doing.
That's all you can do, man. Just wrestle your match and make a difficult decision for the coaches. So
yeah,
perfect. Well, we definitely look forward to that. Hope you catch some fish. That's what you want to do to relax. That's what you got to do, and you've earned it for sure. So thanks for joining the Potentially Dangerous podcast, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, there you have it, IU Russell fans. There's Gannon Gremmel, Rachel Waters. Special thanks. Shout out to both of you for winning the stop sign, bringing it home for the state of Iowa, and I think making everyone proud. Good way to go out your senior year. Ross, overall thoughts after talking to Gannon after bringing home his second stop sign? Gannon completely blew me out of the water with his finish. I'm pretty sure a lot of the people in the nation, and including us, thought he was one of the top guys, but the fact that he was the national champ just kind of took me by surprise. Overall, I thought Team Iowa did pretty well. We had a lot of guys in the finals. I should include gals because, of course, Rachel Waters repeating. Overall, I'm really impressed with Team Iowa. I felt like we were right in the thick of things all week. Yeah, if anything, there was maybe some stop signs not brought home that I think maybe could have, or at least All-American status. A couple of guys we ran up against other Iowa guys. Yeah, Alex Thompson knocked out 2 Iowa guys, if I'm not mistaken. It's I think overall pretty dang successful week. It ranks top 3 All-Americans that we brought home, correct? Yeah, overall it tied for third with total All-Americans between freestyle, cadet, and Greco-Roman cadet junior. All 4 classes for men's combined. This was third overall, so not a bad year overall for Iowa. But I don't know. I guess maybe there's some left on the table, but even looking at like Carter Haffel going out on top, just beating Pat McKee or Mitch McKee. There's 2 McKees, gets me confused, but he beat Mitch McKee by tech fall to end his career, and Mitch McKee, at least has been number 2 for UWW juniors for junior team trials the last 2 years. So overall, just a really great performance, and I don't know. I'm really impressed with the Iowa State crowd. Yeah, Cyclones clearly had the best weekend of in-state schools. These coaches were tweeting, and people from Iowa State were excited. So Cyclones got some stuff going on right now, and Cyclone fans are pretty dang happy. I've gotten text and had lunch with an Iowa State guy today. People were wanting to know what the heck was in the water up there, but Gremmel bringing home the title for Iowa was obviously a way to end the tournament. Talking with Rachel, I've interviewed her multiple times, and really I've gotten to know her better the last 2 years. And her dad writes, Matt Waters writes for IU Wrestle, covering women's wrestling, and got to know the family. And I guess it makes it a little bit more personal when you see somebody do that. And she just kind of changed my perspective on wrestling every single time I talk to her. I think I tweeted it out today after I talked to her. when you think of women wrestling in Iowa, it's definitely not something that everyone thinks about, or it's not what we're known for. I mean, we're severely behind everybody else around the country as far as states go. And we had Felicity Taylor, who I think had a great tournament in cadets and juniors, stepping up to do the juniors. And obviously Rachel, she'll go down in my book as the most influential women's wrestler in Iowa. Yeah, obviously with Megan Black making all the the headlines with ESPN for making the state tournament was great, but Rachel was really bringing home the titles, and her attitude and willing to talk with media all the time. And she's been on the news multiple times for other things other than wrestling. So it's been good to see, and hopefully women's wrestling will grow. And we talked about women's sanctioned wrestling in Iowa. I think we're far long ways away from that. But growing up, Ross, and wrestling, if there was a girl on the wrestling team, she kind of had like a bullseye on her back already just for being a girl. Even though she could maybe beat some of the kids on the team, people didn't want a girl on the team. Is that how it was at your high school, or did you have that there?
Yeah, actually, I went to East Buchanan, and we definitely had a varsity starter at 112 pounds back when the weight classes were, so I'm a little bit older. I'm from your timeline there, Tony. But, I mean, we had a starter at 112, and I don't want to say she was singled out because I don't think that's what it was. But, I mean, there was just this stigma in the room that it was like, okay, who wants to work out with her? And it's just a little bit of a different feel to the room. And I feel like people like Rachel Waters that can break through and transcend, and she's talking about sanctioning to have a girls' state tournament and someday having a junior duals team at Fargo. I think that would be great for Iowa. I think we could have a lot more participation if we had this separate, so they didn't have to wrestle the boys, because I feel like there is just a little bit of that stigma that makes it just a little bit awkward, because, I mean, you got to remember, all these kids are high schoolers or teenagers, are going through all these changes, and it does just make it a little bit hard to just handle at that time of their lives. So I think you're 100% right. When you were talking to Rachel and I listened to your interview, and I was just like, it changes my perspective on how we should handle women's wrestling in Iowa. And maybe you're right. Maybe the numbers aren't there, but sanctioning the sport in Iowa on the high school level would be tremendous, just because I think there would be some participation coming in, but it just, there is that stigma, that awkwardness for kids. I mean, I guess, I don't know. That's just what I recall from my high school days.
Yeah. And as a father, too, as parents, I mean, would you want, I've got a baby girl coming any moment now, and it'd be hard for me to send her into a room full of 50 guys. Her not to even probably be in that room. It would make me feel a hell of a lot better if there was a room full of 10 girls on a team. That's for sure. For her and any girl to be going through what they're doing now in the state of Iowa, trying to make varsity boys team, I think is pretty impressive. And we've come a long ways, I feel like, from when I talk to coaches and wrestlers on the Ballard team, that she's just one of them. And I don't feel like that at every school. Rachel's a special person that is able to kind of bring people in. I don't know if she has that way of just making you believe. And I don't think we see that at every school. So I'd be kind of curious to see maybe some of these smaller 1A schools, how they treat females on the team. But let's move on here. Just moving to cadets. Obviously came home with some All-Americans, national champ. Colin just been doing what he's been doing on the national scene. Tulsa, Super 32, wrestling the best kids around the country, and really dominates his way. You know what you're going to get with him from neutral position. He's got that really good control of the elbow and has almost like a left-handed high seat, kind of like
Brent Metcalf does, and he's got that boot scoot. I mean, he won his first 2 matches by Tech Fall, then 8-2, then Tech Fall, and 8-5 in the finals. It's just 88 pounds. A lot of people are wanting to know how he's going to transition into 106 pounds. That's definitely going to be a weight jump, but it's everybody at 106 is small, and there's nobody on his level, I think, at 106 right now in the state.
I'll say this, we've talked about Colin Shriver at length on this podcast. Seeing him win the national title should be no surprise to anybody. I mean, this is a 2-time Triple Crown winner at the schoolboy level, so seeing him win a freestyle title at the cadet level shouldn't surprise you right now. I think you would know, I mean, because you're a guy that's 103 pounds in high school. You know that weight. I feel like you would know more than anybody how kids can compete there. But I kind of dug into our prior All-Americans, and, Andrew Long and Corey Clark are 2 guys that are the most recent to come out of Iowa that have performed well at Fargo and done pretty well at the state tournament. So I think Colin Shriver is going to be just fine at Mason City. I know Andrew Long, I think, might have finished 8th as a freshman, but Shriver just looks like he might be even a level higher. He's winning. He's won everything. You said it, Super 32, Tulsa. I mean, what do you think? Because 88 pounds, I mean, you were 103 pound state finalist back in your day. I mean, how big are those guys? I know a lot of seniors can kind of still stay down there, but how will Colin handle 2A 103 or 106, I guess?
Yeah, I guess it just depends on who's there next year. If you've got guys that are cutting from 15 to get down to 6 and maybe even higher, it's a big weight difference. I think he's going to come in 95 pounds. If he can get around 95 to 100 pounds, that's going to be really where he wants to be in order to compete. He's not a overly built 6-pounder, so he's definitely going to be way undersized. It's just going to be he's just quicker than a lot of them. He's a lot slicker than the kids that I've seen at that weight class. So it'll be interesting to see that weight difference, how he handles, going underneath on shots. He's going to have to take a lot more outside singles, and he's not going to be able to control the ties that he is right now. He can control that elbow. Somebody 10 pounds heavier than him is just going to be able to probably, whip it away from him. So we won't know until we get there, but I expect him to be in the top 3 in the state next year. It just kind of depends on how big he gets and who in the room is going to be pushing him and, getting those feels. I think already right now he's working with Eric Fowl, cadet, 100-pounder. He wrestled 6. So, he's getting those feels already.
Definitely. I definitely agree. I mean, one thing that I like about Shriver is his offense is pretty diverse. So he's not going to be limited to just a couple moves. But, I mean, it's anyone's game when you're giving up 10 pounds. I do remember that from high school myself, and so we'll see how he handles that. But if anyone can do it, it's Shriver. That kid is he's unbelievable. He's a phenomenal talent.
So sticking with cadets, Aiden Reeves, I felt just had a breakout year last year prior to state, high school folk style. Great freestyler. This year ended up getting 8th place. Had a tough loss to Josh Saunders from Missouri, but he battled back with multiple Tech Falls in the fall. Just kind of ran into some tough guys. But what are your overall thoughts on Aiden Reeves at Fargo? Does the stock stay the same? Did it rise? Did he go down a little bit on the totem pole?
I guess I'd stay even on Aiden. I think he was 6th place at 106 last year, and he was 8th place this year. But he went up 2 weights. I mean, going up to 120 from 106. I mean, you can listen to anybody talk about the difference between wrestling 106-pounders and 120. I mean,
the farther you go up, the more difficult it's going to be. So he went up to 120. The guys he lost to, Josh Saunders, he lost to Robbie Prieston. It's I'm pretty sure that's Brandon Prieston's brother who wrestled at Northwestern. So I mean, I don't know how great Robbie Prieston is, but when your brother wrestled D1 at Northwestern and he beat a national champ like Matt McDonough, you got to understand there's some good bloodlines going on there. So, I mean, he lost to some pretty tough kids. Josh Sanders was a number 1 middle school recruit at one time, or rankings-wise. So he lost some tough matches, but he went up 2 weights. So I definitely applaud his effort going up to 120. I'm definitely staying even on Reeves. I'm still high on him. I'm not taking Ben down. He's not exploding off the charts for me, but he stayed the same, which is a top 50 kid for his class, which is pretty damn good.
And, Kay DeVos, speaking of people going up, he's back wrestling. I'm not sure if he's 100% healthy, but, he didn't make it. He lost in the second round and then came back and won 2, and then it was out of a tournament. That was a kid I think a lot of people were curious to see how he was going to come back. And I think Eldo's still affecting him. Officially Southeast Poke boy now, and be interesting to just kind of see what way he shakes up at. And I don't think we take away anything from how he did at Fargo, based off the injury and getting back there. But sticking at 120, Brody Teske making the finals. That was talking with Brody at the Fargo camp. Where's colleges are looking at him. How's he feeling? He's wrestling, and he always tells me I've got a lot more work to do. There's way more work to do, and Brody Teske I think turned a lot of eyes this tournament as far as people around the country. And we all know in Iowa, he's dominating Iowa, scored tons of points. But coming home in second place, obviously disappointed. But Jordan Decatur from Ohio. Have you had a chance to watch the match yet?
Oh my God, dude's huge.
He looked like a 33-pounder.
Definitely. Yeah, Teske, feel bad for him. I mean, he ran into a hammer. A lot of people know that Decatur name on the national scene, but last year, Teske, he's a big name in Iowa nationally. I think still quite a few people knew who he was, but I think you're right. The second place finish out at 120 is going to start to open some eyes to realize, yeah, Brody Teske's for real, and he just ran into another hammer, right? So, I mean, and even, I want to go back to Kay DeVos. I mean, I'm not down on him either after this performance. I don't know about his injury situation, but I know, Eric Fout, I think about him. He didn't place at 100 pounds last year in his first year cadet. Alex Townsend didn't place his first year as cadet. And we've seen them, after they get that first year cadet under their belt, they come back next year, and Teske's that same way. They just they jump a level. And I think Kay DeVos is a prime candidate that, Brody Teske didn't really see a lot from him last year that we were hoping to see. He did it this year where he made the finals. And I think DeVos can be the same way next year. We're going to be like, wow, he really had a breakout year.
I hope so. I hope so. I agree with you. You put things in perspective when you Thompson and Teske, not having those breakout years, and then you see what they're doing now. So I think a name too that I would say stock rise quite a bit nationally would be a guy named Joel Shapiro, Valley Boy. He top 20 in the country. Is he on that level yet? I just feel like we haven't seen him wrestle a lot of national talent, but he lost to the Fargo champ, I believe, in the quarters. So it's not like he didn't lose to anybody that was he shouldn't have lost to, I guess. So. Joel Shapiro had a great tournament and probably be at the night of conflict.
Dude, Shapiro, his win at Disney Duels over the Pennsylvania kid Travis Stefanik maybe. He beat him, and it's kind of eye opening because you see him go from 145. He does well at freestyle state at 170. Then he goes down to 160 for Disney Duels, get that win over Stefanik. And now he's a cadet All-American at 170. Shapiro, I mean, maybe he just needed to put on some weight, but he's definitely looked so great this summer. And I'm hoping we can get him into Night of Conflict this fall. Definitely, he's gained a lot of my support. He's opened my eyes this summer myself. So I'm fully behind Shapiro at this point.
Moving up the weight classes, I mean, these are some names that I haven't really heard of a whole lot. Logan Schumacher, Hunter, Caleb Reeves, Spencer Trineri. I mean, these are guys that really weren't on my radar at these upper weight classes for cadets, and they brought home let's see, it'd be 1, 2, 3, 4 All-American statuses out of these upper weight classes. So young guys at these upper weights are doing it for Iowa.
Definitely. Schumacher was a top 3 guy all year long in 1A, I want to say. Reeves and Young from Sibley Ocheyedan, definitely some surprises there at 195. And then Spencer Trineri, I want to say he was really close to All-Americaning, being an All-American last year. I think he was beat by Cooper Lawson in the blood round for cadets. So he was really close. So Schumacher, Trineri, I felt like those were our big guns, but Reeves, DeYoung, they really showed up at 195. And I think that, when you think about Iowa, you think about a lot of lightweights that have come out of our state and maybe a few middleweights here and there, but I don't know, seeing Schumacher, Reeves, and DeYoung do so good, it just makes you feel good about those upper weights that we haven't really seen a lot of success in. And I personally love seeing upper weights do really well for Team Iowa just because we don't really see a ton of those weight classes performing well.
Yeah, and they don't really get a whole lot of love very often. They're not flashy, but I feel like they were kind of one of the flashy guys in Fargo for me at the cadet level, anyways. So, anything else, at the cadet level before we get on to this crazy junior team we got?
I just want to definitely second that. I mean, Trineri taking third in freestyle, winning Greco. Reeves was in the semifinals, and he was in the finals of Greco, semifinals of freestyle. I mean, you're right. These guys don't get the love, so definitely just kind of want to hit on those again. Just all the love to those big guys, just making gains and winning All-American honors and bringing home little stop signs for Iowa. I mean, I know Tony Ramos says stop sign is national title, but even those coasters, the little 8th place finishers, they still count. So I appreciate all those guys' hard work.
I think they still go up on the wall the same way. They're not as big, but they go on the wall. I don't have one, so
that's right.
Shout out to Spencer, and hopefully someday we can get an interview with him once he opens up to the media a little bit. He's not used to the bright lights yet. So, but the juniors thing, these are the guys that have been in the spotlight before, and I kind of want to touch on a couple things prior to the freestyle event even starting. Barnes not even making weight by 0.2. That had to have been kind of a head scratcher, I guess, for the coaches, but I don't know how hard of a cut it was, what was going on behind the door. So I'm sure as heck not going to judge what went on, prior to making weight, but he sure as heck performed up a weight class, and we'll get to that. But on Twitter, I've been getting lots of questions about a wrestler from Iowa, Nick Graham, not being able to wrestle. He had a doctor's note. and he had some stuff going on his forehead. Doctor's note didn't clear. The doctor said that it wasn't what the doctor's note was for, so therefore he couldn't go to Fargo. So he couldn't wrestle in Fargo. I mean, talk about just a total bummer. You know, you go to the camp for a week and you train with these guys, and you spend the money to go to Fargo. Parents are in Fargo. You can't wrestle because of a little skin disease. I mean, jeez. I can't imagine. I like to know how many kids do get stopped really in Fargo that can't compete. Because it seems like at high school level, you got a doctor's note, you're through the door. And sometimes if you don't have a doctor's note, you're through the door. And it just sucks, especially since it affected Team Iowa and a guy I coach.
I mean, I remember when, again, drawing back to my experience, I always tried to get those notes to be safe rather than sorry. So yeah, my heart definitely went out when, you know, you bring a note and you go all the way to Fargo. Like you said, you're traveling a couple states over, your parents are coming out. It's kind of an expensive trip, and you get there and the refs say, no, you're not cleared to go. And you're sitting there with that doctor's note. I mean, it's got to be a lot of it, not a little bit, a lot of it frustrating. But obviously, I don't know the circumstances as well as you or people that were there. But heart goes out to Nick Graham because he performed well at the state tournament. Really enjoyed watching him, and I really would have liked seeing him at Fargo.
I mean, initially I was pretty upset because usually it's just an official there. But after talking to him on the way home, it sounds like there was a couple doctors that were there and some coaches from Iowa USA Wrestling were there. So it wasn't like he was on his own. But with that many kids, I mean, there can't be a coach there all the time to help them do these things. And it's just, it sucks. But anyways, on to the juniors. Starting here at the lower weights, another little controversy, I guess, is right there with Justin Portillo at 106 pounds. Had to take an injury default out because of he actually won his match, but the other wrestler's state contested it, paid money to review the clock, and it was deemed that the injury time had gone out because Justin was puking on the mat. I mean, it was pretty bad. I mean, the coaches were cleaning it up. They had a wastebasket on the mat. It was kind of, you felt for him. They blow the whistle and get some kind of some action in, and then he'd have to puke again. And I guess it wouldn't be a way that I would want to win. I wouldn't want to make All-American status by somebody just injury defaulting out, because it wasn't like he was getting, his breath. He was physically puking. So I guess what are your thoughts on, rules are rules, I guess, but what are your thoughts on coaches being able to go back and pay to have these videos reviewed?
I mean, it's unfortunate that Portillo lost that way, but I suppose at the end of the day, if an Iowa kid did it, as much as we cover them and as involved as their careers as we seem to get, I'd probably be like, yeah, this kid's puking the whole time. He probably, I don't know. It's a tough line to walk, but I feel bad for Portillo, but I mean, if you're using up all your injury time, that's the rules. So I guess at the end of the day, I'm a huge rules follower. So I would have to side against him. I'm sorry, but that's just how it is.
He didn't get injury defaulted out of the match. Like, it didn't happen during the match. Like, if they're keeping time and you're puking, then you should be done. But I mean, his hand was raised. It was done. I mean, after the fact, for them, I guess I just watching it and I'd be like, oh wow, his injury time was way up. We should have won this match. I just feel like that's such a.
No, I guess that's a good way to put it. That it ran out and nothing was said at the time, and they continued the match, and maybe I'd feel a little bit different. I guess, but that's a good way to put it. That the match so completed, nobody said anything at the time. Maybe, you're putting me in a tough spot, Tony.
We can disagree. It's all right. I'm just saying. I mean, I'm with you. We got to follow the rules, but after the match is over, that's like crying wolf, I guess. It's like, oh man, I mean, he ran out of blood time, you know, like whatever.
Right, exactly. You didn't say anything until you needed to say anything. Like, you know, if you're gonna say something right away, there you go. Like, no, he broke the rules. It's over. But if you let it go to conclusion, the hand gets raised, and you walk off the mat, and you come back after the fact, that does seem to cheapen the win a little bit, I guess. But that's why I'm so conflicted, because if you're calling it in the moment, yeah, that's fair game. But after the fact, you get the hand raised. That's probably why I feel so much for Portillo. Just he thought he had that win. Even track wrestling put up. You know, he was an All-American there for a little bit. And then, I don't know. I feel bad for him, but at the end of the day, I guess I would fall down to the rules.
Yeah, I mean, if we're losing a match like that to Putin, Alex Thompson's match, I don't know if you had a chance to watch it against Jacob Campbell in the second round. That's a match that should be able to go back, and Iowa should be able to contest that, because he got absolutely screwed on his deal, in my opinion. You know, he was the one starting the move, and they ended up giving all the points to his opponent. It was horrible. Have you watched it yet?
I didn't see that one, but I saw the controversy. I kind of forgot about it and all the Fargo madness with the first rounds, cadets going on. So I forgot about. Yeah, I saw you and maybe Joe Stevens, his high school coach, tweeting about how crazy that exchange was.
Yeah, I need to go back and watch it again and again. And I mean, I was going crazy in my office, wanting to know, why the heck do we not sort of know what's going through your head as a coach there in the corner. But I mean, I just feel like he 100%. I don't like to complain about officials, but it's not that they reviewed it. They reviewed it and then got it wrong, and that's what upsets me. Is if you make a call and it's wrong, you know, it's split decision. Officials, it's so hard. Their job is so hard. But if we're going back and reviewing things and still can't get it right, it wasn't
unacceptable.
It wasn't just that they didn't even get it right. They got it completely wrong and gave the wrong person even points. It's not like they took away points from Alex. They gave the points to Campbell. So it's
like that match we saw at World Team Trials back in 2015 when Reeder was wrestling Ed Ruth. Remember when he's tilting him on the side, and then they reviewed it and they gave Ed Ruth all those points.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, Reeder wouldn't have exposed himself that many times if he didn't think he was getting points. And it's just so ridiculous when they can go back and review it and just completely goof up a call. I don't know.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, back up to Portillo. Go to 113. I guess we'll get to Thompson. Biscaglia, guy that's ranked top 10 in the country. He ran into Pat McKee, that other McKee you were talking about. Got checked by him. I mean, that's just ran into a buzzsaw there in the round of 8 there. Sucks for him, because that was being ranked in the top 10. This was a kind of a tournament that he wanted to climb that college recruiting scene, I guess. I mean, he's still climbing, but 113 pounds. You got to be the top 3 in the country to get those looks for at college, because you're already small. So you need to have the best kid. You want to be the best kid to in order to get those looks, which he's going to get. He still got time left, but I'm not disappointed in Cal Biscaglia, but I guarantee you he is. And it sounds like he's going to go to Super 32 and try to redeem himself just by not getting on that stand.
Which he absolutely should. Returning Super 32 placer from a year ago. And you're right. When you're that small and you're looking for college looks, you got to be one of those top guys at one of those smaller weights. So This wasn't the tournament he wanted, but we've seen plenty of guys that just didn't have the tournament they wanted, and they still turn it on for their senior and junior year, whatever it happens to be. And I think Biscaglia is going to be one of those guys that's going to be just fine.
Drew Bennett, he's ranked nationally by Flow. Didn't have the tournament that I was expecting. Brady Kiner, it's been kind of that guy we've gotten some flack for not ranking high on our website, and I think I was looking for him to kind of be a little bit of a sleeper when he ran into Gavin Teasdale second round. Not much you can do there, being Teasdale, obviously, pound for pound, one of the top guys in the country.
And even Paxton Rosen, I feel like, is a guy that I feel most people have seen that name around. So both of his losses in this tournament were to Teasdale's obviously a big name, but his other loss was to a pretty decent guy nationally that, Brady Kiner, we have gotten that flack, and I'm not down on his performance. He made to the Conci round of 6, and both of his losses were to tough guys.
Bryce West ended up 7th place. I want to say that'd be kind of where I thought I'd see him. Jack Wagner, I think Willie picked him as kind of a sleeper of the tournament, or the guy to watch. What are your thoughts on Jack Wagner?
Wagner, especially watching him at the state tournament, he seemed like a huge 120-pounder, and I think we even saw him wrestle 126 at Freestyle State. He's just so big. I feel like he's going to fit in at 125 fine for the Hawkeyes in the future. But I'm definitely, losing to Brandon Courtney of Arizona isn't the worst thing in the world. But to lose to Ronell Peterson of Missouri, coming back and that wasn't the blood round, but round before maybe. I was a little disheartened by Wagner's performance. I think he's going to be just fine. He's a pretty big 120-pounder, but I guess I don't know. Yeah,
I think it's tough. It's always tough. You never know how people are going to react from you want to be a national champ, and then you got to come back and battle back. It's just hard to do in a tournament like that. I was talking to a couple of people about how hard it is to come back losing early in a tournament like that. It's such a grind of a tournament, especially if you're there, if you're there for Greco. So it's not everybody can do it, but I think maybe he was cutting some weight for the tournament. So a guy that was able to come back, battle back from an early loss was Alex Thompson. Rattled off. Won the first round, then he had that screw job. Then he comes back and wins 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 straight to wrestle for 3rd and 4th. And wow, dude, that's just so many. That's a ton of matches to be able to come back from. And Alex Thompson, I don't think lost anything in my book based off of what happened in that second round. To come back after that, I think that's pretty impressive.
Well, yeah, and the biggest important thing is he lost 8-6 in that second round, and then he blanked that kid 8-0 in Conci round 9, Jacob Campbell. So he completely turned around that loss. And you talk about those kids that they have that mindset to win the national title, and then they lose and to come back. So he's got that mental toughness, and that's something you want to see more. College coaches love seeing kids wrestle year-round, but they love to see those kids that if they take an early loss, that they have that toughness to grind through the rest of the tournament, because sometimes that happens at the NCAA tournament. You get upset early in the tournament in the match you're expected to win, and you still got to come back and help the team out. And Alex Thompson is definitely one of those guys this weekend.
Brock Rathbun up at 132, future Hawk. What are your thoughts on his performance and how he will be in the Iowa room?
Rathbun,
sixth place.
Yeah, Rathbun getting to the semifinals, I was pretty pumped up for that. But then, when I looked at that matchup and I saw it was against Ian Parker, and Tony, we've been high on Ian Parker he's definitely been a sleeper on the Potentially Dangerous podcast for sure. We love those Michigan kids, him and Kanan Store. When I saw they had that matchup, I started to get a little nervous about how he would come back, and then he ran into Townsville the next round. I mean, he kind of had back-to-back tough matches.
Yeah.
But definitely making the semifinals, a huge chip in his favor. A lot of people looking forward to him maybe being the 133-pounder in the future, but I definitely love Rathbone's performance this weekend.
That you touched on Ian Parker, then Townsville. I mean, those are two national hammers, and that's just a tough. And again, these big tournaments are going to run into tough guys. It's just a tough guy to come back from after being in the semis to wrestle, especially a hungry Gabe Townsville. Is never good. Moving on up, Carter Happel. We touched on him a little bit. For him to made the quarters, wrestled Nick Lee, who ended up winning the national title, got teched by Nick Lee, and then to get a tech fall over Mitch McKee in the third, fourth place, end his career as a high school, Iowa, one of the all-time greats in Iowa, 15-5. I think that was kind of just a sigh of relief for Happel. That's the way I kind of gathered from the way he just has been reacting on Twitter and some of his posts on Facebook, that kind of a relief that it's over and he can move on with his career at Iowa. Is that what you're kind of feeling?
Yeah, I mean, losing to Nick Lee isn't really a bad thing. Lee looks really good at freestyle, but to go out on top of Mitch McKee, yeah, definitely looking at social media, he's excited about how he went out, and to see him tech fall Mitch McKee was, I mean, to see him lose to Nick Lee was kind of like, oh man, where's he going to be at with all these elite guys? But Mitch McKee is pretty good in his own right. So to beat him in his final match, I mean, that's something definitely to hang your hat on. Like you said, Happel's been one of the greatest the states have seen. 2-time, or I guess he won Fargo and he won Fila's. He's just been one of the greatest we've seen, and I definitely enjoyed watching him for sure.
He got revenge on Deegan from Night of Conflict. Kind of tried to give the match away a little bit. I don't know if you've seen this match, but he ended up winning 16-5. He tried this front headlock and almost he put himself on his back and almost got stuck. And I was like, oh my Lord, just about gave me a heart attack because he was in just control of that match with Deegan. I mean, from the get-go, and you just kind of let him back in, and end up, 16-15. That's the match we wanted to see at Night of Conflict, wasn't it?
Oh, wasn't he up like 6-0?
Yeah, it was on his way to attack.
Yeah, I think it was 8-0, and then he let Deegan come back, and then he come up, and he does a little bit more. Oh man, talk about a heart-wrenching performance. I'm assuming, especially if you had the Happel family, you were kind of holding your head there, and that just couldn't have been fun. But at the end of the day, he came out, made the quarterfinals, and finished with the third place performance to be pretty happy about, I think.
Zach Barnes is a happy camper, I'm sure, too. He lost first round to Thomas from Illinois and then won 7 straight, I believe, on the Conti side. So I count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 straight to All-American. I think that kind of, I wouldn't say like put him on the national scene, but I guess solidified that he's right up there with those guys. Like he can start contending with them. It's this next year is really going to be his test for kind of as far as college goes. Like, is he going to be like a D3, D2, NAI level? Can he be on that D1 level? That's at this type of weight class. At 141, that's what I think his college weight's got to be. Right now, I'd have to say like Zach Barnes is would be a really good fit at Grandview. But what are your thoughts on his performance?
That's pretty close on. Definitely lit up some eyes. like we said earlier in the podcast, he missed weight by 0.2 of a pound we're talking about. So he went up to 145, and he did this well. His last match, he lost to Alexander Lloyd, who, he's a Minnesota kid that was adopted from Russia. Intermat, the open mat, I feel like a lot of these wrestling publications have had stories on Lloyd about how successful he's been. So losing his last match, I'm still not too even down on it, just because we watched Lloyd at the Conflict at Carver. He looked really good in that tournament. But Barnes, I'm really impressed seeing him make the All-American stand. He did it on the junior level, not the cadet level, which is, that's a big distinction to see him make 8th place. We only returned 2 junior All-Americans on this team, Happel and Isley. So the fact that Barnes made it as a junior, that's pretty huge. So, I'm encouraged by it, and I think, I'm really going to look forward to see what he can do in this next year to prove he's a D1 guy that has a really legit future in the college wrestling scene.
Nelson Brands, I think a lot of people were, they were real excited to see him wrestle from the national talent, and he's got a lot of buzz around him, picking up the state title over Zach Barnes, who was the number 1 guy in the state, and Brands knocked him off. He was in trouble early in the tournament, was able to bounce back, but he couldn't get it going in this tournament. Losing by tech fall and then decision to end this tournament. What do you think, freestyle-wise, what did you see out of Brands?
I feel like Nelson's still learning. And folk style and freestyle. Going back to his cadet days when he wrestled 113 2 years ago to right now, he's a kid that's learning, and he didn't have the tournament that we kind of thought he would. We thought maybe he turned a corner, and he didn't. But that doesn't mean that next year that he still doesn't jump levels, because he's still, miles better than he was his freshman year to this last year. So I'm not down on Nelson Brands at all. I think he's one of our state's top college prospects. I guess not rankings wise, but subjectively, not objectively. So subjectively, I think he's one of the best kids in our state. I think he can progress very well. So I feel bad for his performance. He didn't make the stand, but I think he's still going to be all right.
Colton Clemenfield up at 160 pounds. This guy I'm huge on. We've talked about it on Potentially Dangerous, and there's kind of some mental lapse in some of these bigger tournaments, and I think that happens in this tournament. This kid can throw anybody, I think, in the country. He can come back on anybody in the country, and I think he kind of relies on those big points from himself that he can do, and it kind of, if he gives up some, it kind of sometimes it can bite him in the rear. But to get fifth in the country, 160 pounds, he won by injury default over Evan Wick, who everyone knows, nationally ranked. Not for sure exactly what was going on with Wick, but still, he was able to Trey Meyer. He was able to tech him. Vanderoy from Oregon, he beat him 15-11. He's got some big wins.
Yeah, you just said it. Trey Meyer, the Iowa State recruit. Van Anroy from Oregon. Lane Van Anroy's brother was a D3 national champ. Then he beat Heidley, who, beat Mason Manville. He had 3 straight wins there, where he beat some really tough kids, and I think he nailed it on the head already, that sometimes mental mistakes get the best of Colton Klingenthal, and he's headed to North Dakota State, where he's got Roger Kish to hammer that out, and I think he's going to be a tremendous D1 recruit that came in under the radar for the Bison up there.
And I want to jump up here. Marcus Coleman, committing to Iowa State before the tournament. I was kind of hoping that'd be a little bit of pressure lifted off of him. He went he had a bye and two fall on attack, and then went 2 losses right away. That was a surprise to me.
100%. I mean, you're talking about the returning cadet finalist, and I think he was feeling really good coming in, and he felt. I mean, I 5-3 during the junior duels for Team Iowa, but I guess I don't really know what happened to Marcus Coleman, if he just kind of had a bad week, but he's definitely still one of the top juniors in our state, and I'm still high on him. I think Iowa State got a good winner right there.
A couple of guys, Chase Schultz and Max Lyon, 2 guys that are, I think, now starting to get a little bit more heavily recruited. A lot more of the D1 schools are kind of putting them on their radar. So, neither one of those guys, though, got All-American status. So, was it, I want to go back to, was this kind of a base stock, even, lowered their stock? And Max was obviously 3rd in the country at the time, so I think Max kind of steps back a little bit there. But what are your thoughts on Chase?
I don't think you can take anything away from Chase. I mean, you look at a lot of these kids that here, and they're wrestling year-round. They're completely focused, but I know for a fact Chase Schultz was coming off the mound. He's a pretty big pitcher for Creston. He's a multi-sport athlete for that school. I think a lot of colleges are still kind of wondering if he's going to wrestle or play football. I think, he kind of reminds me a lot of Stephen Holloway, who committed to Iowa this last year, 2015 class. He's a lot like that. He's just, you don't really know what kind of talent you have until he completely commits himself to wrestling or football, if that's where he decides to go. But he's a really good talent. Max Lyon, you're right. He kind of took a step back. Number 3 ranking blew everybody out of the water after junior duels. I think a lot of people were like, holy cow, that seems pretty high. But I still think he's a top 20 talent at that 182-pound weight class. Maybe he just didn't have the weekend he wanted to have.
Yeah, I don't. I'd be kind of curious to see where he falls in the rankings from here with Flo. I think that ranking blew a lot of people out of the way. It was just kind of a shocker, just because he hadn't had a lot of national level experience against some of those guys that were below him. So, to go from unranked to number 3 is, that's a really crazy jump. Especially at 182 pounds. Like, we're not talking he's an incoming freshman and he bumped in the 106-pound rankings. We're talking about 182 pounds, just finished his junior year to go to number 3 at 182 pounds. That's pretty crazy to begin with when you're trying to wrap your head around that. So I feel bad because Max was up that high and he's probably going to fall a little bit. But at the same time, it's almost like you feel like they maybe set him up to fail, because that is a crazy jump to go up 17 spots because he had 2 wins at junior duels, really. Yeah. You're right. Want to bump up to heavyweight here, where we have some big names in the state. Wyatt Wright, he's at 220. Costello's on that verge of top 50. Neg, Eiley, Anderson, and Gremmel. Carter, on paper, people are going to look at this and the whole Gremmel winning the national title. A lot of people don't know that Carter had to bow out of the Greco, and because he hurt his hand, and we weren't for sure if he was actually going to be able to compete in freestyle. So, Carter's, he possibly could have maybe a broken hand. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I haven't talked to him since he's been back. But no joke, he definitely wrestled injured, and for him to get top 4 in the country, I think says a lot about him and his future. I know he was really down on himself, but dude, at the end of the day, he was injured and battled through that, where a lot of kids would have just probably stayed home. Or at least gone home, I guess you could say, after Greco.
When you're taking away hand fighting, that's a pretty big part of wrestling.
At 285.
Yeah, and you're talking about somebody squeezing your hand and toughing that out. You're talking about one tough SOB. And so, yeah, if he's down on himself, buck up, man. You're tougher guy than me to stick that out. Like you said, this happened in the Greco tournament, and then he went and wrestled 7 matches in freestyle. Hats off to Carter Isley. I know he didn't finish where he wanted to, and I think he probably is a guy that should have been facing Gannon Gremmel in the finals, and I would have loved to see that. Yeah, that would have been good. That would have been good for iWrestle.com. We want the best. We want Iowa to be in the finals every single time if that's possible. I hated seeing those. I hated seeing like Alex Thompson. He wrestled Drew West, I believe. He knocked Drew out of the tournament. I hated seeing that. Why couldn't they have met like in the medal matches or something? So that kind of sucks. He ended up tech falling Drew West. And Portillo took out Millage. So a lot of Iowa guys got knocked out by Iowa guys. We touched on Gremmel already earlier in the podcast, but overall, go back to we top 3 finish that our state's ever had, and some people were down on how our team practices prior to Fargo, and I think we've got a lot of good coaches. We got a lot of good coaches at those camps. Going to those camps the last 2 years, pretty impressive who they bring in there. There's definitely some improvements, talking that can be made, and be interesting to see what direction Iowa USA Wrestling goes here in the future. And I know we're going to be talking to them on Sunday about just some things that we hope we can help with, and just really just try to grow Iowa USA Wrestling, grow women's wrestling in Iowa, and hopefully we can be a part of it. If you're listening to this podcast and you're fan of it and what we're doing in Iowa, and have some suggestions that you'd like us to bring to the membership meeting on Sunday, by all means, shoot us an email, shoot us a tweet. We're happy to voice them. Sometimes people don't get they have all these ideas, but they can't voice them because they can't be there. So let us know, and we'll let you know. Let you know what we can find out, and hopefully help grow Iowa USA Wrestling. So, Brock, we've been talking for it's a long podcast. Obviously, it's Fargo. If I could talk another hour, we could touch on every single guy here that competed in Greco, and all the girls that we had. Overall, pretty happy with the performance, and I can't wait for a night of conflict. A lot of these kids that we just talked about are going to be in our event or going on to Super 32, and it's going to be a good 2016, 2017 for Iowa kids. 100%. Like you said, we could talk for hours on end on every one of these kids. So I guess the main thing I want to say right now is my hat's off to every kid that went out to Fargo. You proved your medal that you're committed to the sport. You might not have finished where you wanted to. Even some of our All-Americans are down on their finishes. I just want to say I'm proud of every one of our Iowans that went out there, men and women. You guys competed your asses off, and I was proud to watch what matches I did get to see. And like you said, I'm so excited for a night of conflict coming up this fall. That's probably the next time we're going to see a lot of our Iowa studs. So it's going to be fun, Tony.
It's kind of sad to say farewell to a lot of these guys, though, too. I mean, that's the last time we get to see these guys and talk good, talk bad about them, I guess you could say. But I would say a lot of them said that don't want to take anything away from any of these Fargo guys that competed and gals, because you're right. I mean, the fact that they're competing during the summer and going to this event shows the level of commitment they have for themselves in the state of Iowa, because they're not competing for their school, where some other people are maybe, playing baseball, which is perfectly fine, or they're just sitting at home. The people that are sitting at home not getting better is the ones that, you know, we should be getting down on, because, you know, if we want to be the best state in Iowa, we need those guys competing, pushing these guys in their room. And, that's what we gotta do. We gotta find those kids that are at home playing video games and get them in the wrestling room. Because that's how we're going to beat Illinois, these top teams. So all the good things in Iowa. There's definitely some bad, but I think overall everyone's got to be pretty happy.
That's right.
So this has been Potentially Dangerous, episode 57, presented by myhousesportsgear.com, our friends at taltapper.com. Tournaments coming up this coming year. Give them a shout out at taltapper.com. Let them know that the IA Russell guys sent you there, and look good for your tournaments, and take care of yourself, boys. Tony Hager, Ross Bartachek, everyone at IA Russell that did great coverage for the week. Not being able to have our boots on the ground at Fargo kills us, but I feel like we did a good job bringing results and information to y'all. But next year, we will have boots on the ground, and we'll be bringing you all kinds of video interviews from guys and gals at Fargo. So look forward to that next year. Keep supporting IA Russell, and we will be there bringing you all that content. Thanks for listening.